Morning, everybody. Welcome to Grace. This morning we're going to paraphrase John chapter 2. We're going to find a principle and then put it into practice. So John chapter 2 starts out with the wedding at Cana, famous story. Jesus is invited to a wedding. His mom is going to be there. All his disciples are there. They go to the wedding. They're celebrating at the wedding. And all of a sudden, the wine runs out. And this is a problem. And so Mary, Jesus' mother, pulls Jesus aside and says, Jesus, they've run out of wine. And and then Jesus responds, woman, my hour has not yet come. And then she doesn't care. It's as if she doesn't hear anything he has said. She takes him to the attendant and says, do whatever he tells you. And so Jesus at that moment fills up 6 purification jars, huge jars of water, and then says, all right, take one of these, dip into the jar, take it and have it take the master ceremonies and have them to taste it. And then everyone goes, they're amazed because the water's turned to wine. And then the master ceremony goes, everybody else brings out the good wine first, and then when people are drunk, they bring the bad wine. But you have done the reverse. You have brought this, and you have kept the good wine until now. And this is the first of his signs Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Why that? Why that? Why a wedding? Why sort of being pushed into it by his mom? To me, it just really reminded me that God has a plan, and it doesn't connect with any way we would ever do anything. Because the next scene is at Jerusalem, at the temple, where you would expect the first miracle to be. Look at this. In the Passover, the Jews was at hand, and so Jesus heads up to Jerusalem. And that's where in the temple, he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons and money changers sitting there. And he made a whip of cords, and he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And he poured out the coins, the money changers, and overturned the tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade. And his disciples remembered that the Bible said, zeal for your house will consume me. So then the Jews go, what sign, what authority do you do to show us these things? This would have been a great time to turn water into wine, in my opinion. But he doesn't do that. He says, destroy this temple, and I'll rebuild it in 3 days. And they're like, what? This temple we built, it took us 46 years to build this temple, and you'll raise it in 3 days? But he, of course, was talking about his body, and that when he would die, he'd be raised 3 days later. And then, when he was in Jerusalem, many believed his name because they saw the signs he was doing, but he did not. Jesus did not entrust himself to men, for he knew what was in the hearts of men. There's a couple things of note. There's John writes specifically at a wedding in Cana, then at the temple, and then generally in Jerusalem. 3 places that are super important. The Bible starts and ends with a wedding. Starts with Adam asleep, waking up, and then God the Father bringing Eve to him. It ends with a wedding as the bride is given to Jesus as his church, or the church is given as his bride. And then here you have a wedding. The temple obviously is important because the Messiah was supposed to show up at the temple, just not the way that not that way. He's offending the religious people, the good people. Why? But so here it is. Jesus displays his power and his authority for God's glory, to do his will, and that some people might believe in him, and for the good of man. But that's secondary for him doing what God has called him to do. And I think there's this part of us that really gets upset when Jesus doesn't act like he's supposed to act. You don't waste miracles on a wedding when everybody's already drunk. You don't waste your time with people who don't need you. Or don't deserve you, might be a better way to put that. Jesus, you should be spending time with the good people. And I think there's this part of us that we get upset when Jesus gives and shows off his grace in people that we don't think deserve it, or does things that we feel like, what a waste of time. But isn't that just like Jesus? So the principle then is, so Jesus displays his power and his glory for the glory of God. And we may not always understand it. And so the practice is, am I looking for God to fit into my box? Do things the way that I would expect him to? Or am I willing to say, you are Jesus, and I'm ready to just follow you to weddings. I'm ready to follow you to the temple as you drive out the religious people. And I'm willing to follow you all over the world to do your will, not mine. That's the question. Let's pray. God, thank you so much that you are in the world. You're constantly working, even in strife and struggle, seemingly doing miracles that might feel like a waste of your time, where your ministry is being done on people from all around the globe, in places that many would consider armpits of the world. But God, you're still working. And so God, I pray that your grace would be sufficient. Your power would be made perfect. God, you're good. You're good. So Lord, help me to trust you, to follow you, to simply just do your will and not get mine thrown in the middle. I love you, God. In Jesus' name we pray.